This episode of Housing for Good is brought to you by listeners and supporters just like you. If you believe in creating safe, stable, and affordable housing for everyone, consider supporting the McPherson Housing Coalition. Your donation helps us provide housing solutions, support services, and hope to those who need it the most. To donate, visit our website, McPhersonHousingCoalition.org. All donations are tax deductible. Thank you.
Welcome to Housing for Good, a podcast dedicated to housing topics and issues affecting our communities in McPherson County and beyond. With years of experience and expertise, hosts Chris Goodson and Carolyn Moore discuss housing challenges and opportunities with other experts from a variety of housing fields.
Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Housing for Good. I'm Carolyn.
And I'm Chris.
All right, Chris. So we were just talking national news.
Yeah.
You have a perfect analogy.
I do have one.
Yes.
I think it fits in with what our families have been going through. So I went to Boston over the weekend. Had a great time with my son and grandson, so that was really fun. He did really well. He's a thrower, and he did excellent. So he's ranked nationally.
Okay.
So I'm excited about that. But anyways, that's irrelevant at this point. So what happened was Sunday night, I got trapped in the airport. I realized that my Chicago flight was not going to go through, so I hurried up and rebooked to go to Dallas to leave at 6 o'clock, and they kept pushing it back, and pretty soon, 2 o'clock in the morning, they decide, we're going to load the plane now. The crew's coming in, we're going to load the plane, we're going to do this. I was like, perfect, I'm getting to Dallas. At least I'm coming to the Midwest, right, closer to where we live. So they put us on the plane, everybody's ready to go, we're all excited, we can't believe it. And they come on over the intercom and say, well, sorry, the crew's too tired. They can't fly you out. So this is by this time.
Wait a minute.
I know.
How do you not know you're coming in to fly? That's your job.
Right. And that you can't leave. And so that was their big thing. I'm surprised they didn't have a riot, but they did try to give us snacks and give us extra stuff. They brought out the special cart. So we all get off the plane at 2:30 in the morning, right?
Okay, wait. I'm just going to say.
It's hilarious.
So they appease you with a special cart
with snacks.
Yeah. Which, I'm sorry, but that just goes to show that they expected you to be really cheap.
Yeah. So anyways, that happened. Okay, so 2:30 in the morning. So we get off the plane, and the lady's like, everybody's up in line, ready to try to get, what are we going to do tomorrow? And so I'm like, this is ridiculous. So I got on my app, and I changed my flight to the next day at 6 o'clock. That's the best I could do. And she goes, oh, by the way, everybody has to leave the airport. So they kick us out of the security to send us back out to where they, before you get to the security where all the luggage and people and stuff are. Yeah. So I'm there at 2:30 in the morning. It's
by yourself.
By myself. It's too late to get a hotel because I wouldn't sleep anyways. Mm-hmm. So I'm sitting there watching people and doing my thing or whatever. And then at 3:30, I get back in line and get back into the secure part so that I could figure out if I could find a better flight. So I went in, I laid down for a minute, and I was out. I fell asleep for about an hour probably, and I woke up, I didn't even know where I was. But anyways, there's going to be a point to this big old story here pretty soon that has something to do with what our people go through. So anyway, then I went up to a ticket booth counter lady, and I said, look, this is so close together that when I get to Dallas, I'm only going to have 15 minutes to get to my plane. Mm-hmm. Now, on a regular time frame, I can actually make that. But I've been up for this many hours. I'm exhausted. Mm-hmm. So she helped me get on standby. And then, so I was changing the whole time. I kept changing my flights to this and that. Every time something would change, I would just go change it myself or have somebody help me. But imagine yourself where you've been evicted. Mm-hmm. And literally that's what you're navigating, right? Mm-hmm. And this has happened time after time after time. I had the resources. I had the app. I know how to get help. I knew exactly what I needed to do. Even though I'd been up at that point for 36 hours, I was exhausted. Mm-hmm. But I knew how to navigate that. Yeah. Now imagine that's your life, and you're trying to navigate this day after day after day. You don't know where you're going to sleep. Maybe you haven't rested. Your kids are at this point, struggling. You don't know how you're going to eat, what food you're going to get. I had money. I was fine. I had cards and snacks in my bag or whatever. I was fine. But it just reminded me of how much our families struggle every single day. And even though this was a minor incident, really, and this is kind of funny in the whole scheme of it all, but it's not funny when a family is struggling and this is what they're dealing with day after day.
Yep. And the people that know where the resources are and know what they need to do next, send them from here to there to there to there.
Exactly.
Come back tomorrow, and it may be next week.
Right.
So,
and I even had a lot of that. Had I not been able to navigate that app, I would have been in big trouble because I was literally changing flights as I was loading. I got my standby flight. I actually got on. It was a miracle. And before the plane lifted off, knowing I was going, I was sitting there changing my flights.
Yeah.
While I was headed out.
Well, and you told me an interesting thing. You said that on that 15 minutes between flights, there was actually somebody that stood up for you and said, look, this woman has 15 minutes to get off this plane and make her connection. Let her out first.
Yep.
And everybody did. And it's like, so I like to think that's kind of where we step in.
Yes,
it's like, this person needs housing now.
Right.
Let's get them through the
Stop making them
tape.
play around. Get this taken care of. You know, if we would all stand up for people and really help them. I mean, so that was actually what you're talking about was the flight out there, not the flight back. That was a whole nother incident. But anyways, this guy said this lady needs out, and they all stood up and literally made a row for me. It makes me cry thinking about it.
Yeah.
And let me out. And I made it to my next flight. I mean, how cool is that?
Very, very cool.
You know, and it makes you think that there's really good people out there that want to help.
There are. There are. So if we could focus on the really good folks, the ones that are helping people instead of kind of hindering their journey, let's celebrate them. So for this week's episode, we have Eric Duerksen with us. And Eric is our new Public Works Director for McPherson, the city. Eric, would you please introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself, your career path, and how did you end up as McPherson's Director of Public Works?
Yeah, I kind of want to know that myself. Don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. It was definitely not something that was on my radar 6 months ago when I hired on or in late July, but it's funny how you look back and see how different things put you in the places where you are today. And so I grew up here, graduated high school here in 2001, so I met the century mark, so I'm at least that young.
Century mark.
Yeah. But then I went off to Pitt State, got a construction and engineering technology degree eventually after some roundabout ways of going to school. And then my wife and I went to Wichita, worked construction there for about 6 years for a commercial contractor. We started having kids, and they were getting to school age, and we both came from smaller communities. She came from the Ellenwood area, and so we were like, we want to get back to family and closer to a smaller town. And so we came back to McPherson, and so at that point I switched careers, or switched not careers necessarily, but jobs. Came on to work for Hutton, who had just recently purchased King, and worked for them for about 11 years here in McPherson. And so at that point, I wasn't looking for anything, but the position opened up, and some very convincing people approached me and said, you should look at this job. I think you'd be really good at it. And so I'd done some work with the city. Some of the projects we'd worked on were here in McPherson. And
the fire department.
The fire department was the most recent one.
That is a beautiful building, I have to say.
Yep, that was a fun one. The community building was another one. We did the renovation of that building, and some various other things with some other organizations here in town too. But one of the cool things about working with Hutton when I did was that one of their main emphasis was making or being a difference maker in your community, and that was something that was very important to me ever since I came back to town. And so when this opportunity arose, it was hard to turn down, because the difference I could make here with that role was hands down much greater than anything I'd experienced before. And so that led to one thing to another, and here I am.
That's wow. Okay, I'm glad. Aren't you glad we're filled in now? Because I was so curious. So Public Works, what exactly does that fall under? I mean, what's under Public Works?
Public Works, yes. So Public Works includes the street department, the wastewater department, planning and zoning, building inspections, code enforcement, and engineering. And so there's quite an umbrella there that the Public Works covers, and I've been learning a lot since I've gotten here.
Yeah, oh wow, you wear a lot of hats. So what does a typical day look like for you and your team?
Well, it's different for everyone, obviously. So each of those departments obviously has their own roles, their own emphasis. And so, you can imagine what the street department does. They work on the streets in various capacities throughout the day. And the wastewater, they're kind of the unsung heroes. You don't really want to think about those guys and what they're doing.
Yeah.
Not really.
And if they're doing everything right and everything's going well, then you don't think about it. But when it doesn't go right, you definitely do. And so I've been fascinated with the wastewater treatment plant since I've been here and learning about it and what all goes into that. But they stay busy. Then we've got guys out every day of the year cleaning lines out and doing maintenance on things and just so making sure that the things flow the way they're supposed to flow.
Yeah.
And so
Oh, that's a nice way to put it.
yeah.
Right?
The only thing I know about wastewater treatment plant is apparently Wichita can't get theirs to work.
Yes.
So I'm glad I don't hear about McPherson.
I know. See, what you don't hear is that's the way it should
Yes.
be.
Yeah.
What you don't know can't hurt you. That's always my deal.
Yeah.
Right? Don't tell me about it. If it's working, let's just leave it alone.
Leave
and
it alone.
Let it go the
Yep.
way that it does. But are there anything in your department that people would be surprised about that you do every single day that people have no idea besides the wastewater treatment?
Sure.
Maybe the streets and all that
I mean,
kind
I
of
think
stuff.
I think wastewater is probably one of them that people don't understand what all goes into that. I mean, the amount of work and things that those guys are doing on a constant basis just to keep things operating correctly.
Mm-hmm.
But then, there's also a lot of things from the, like planning and zoning. A lot of people that don't get involved with that don't understand what even goes on with that. And so, when people have different projects or they want to buy property and change it to something else or even add on to it, there's a lot of things that go into that. And so the planning and zoning aspects of that, there's a lot of intricate pieces to that. And so until you get into that, you don't really understand what all goes into that. They're super helpful on making those things happen and working through that process. And
I will say that I was on the Board of Zoning Appeals for 25 years.
yep,
Yeah, before I left. And then I went to the county, which has been an interesting endeavor.
Yeah. So I knew nothing about setbacks. My house is so far back from the road. And then I go to other communities where you walk out your front door and there's a sidewalk, and the sidewalk is like 3 foot from the street. There's really no yard. So it wasn't until I started working at the Housing Coalition and we're building the emergency shelter, and it's like, what do you mean they have to be this far back from the street? Well, now, and we all have seen that, where you pull up on an intersection and you can't see what's coming because something's growing right there. And so now I kind of understand better and more. And then also with Sutherland Estates, you've got to have this room. So, yeah.
And we could have actually went to the Board of Zoning Appeals and changed some of that and possibly gotten, it's I think it's like 50 feet over there or something. It's quite, because we're on a corner and all this. But we really wanted our process to go smoother, so we just followed the rules, which when you follow the rules, which I'm not always a rule follower, I will admit, but when you follow the rules, things do go smoother.
yeah, and it's interesting in McPherson because you've got old areas of town and new areas of town, and
Yes.
so people know what they know, and so when they want to do something, they reference what they're knowing. And so if they're referencing something that's old and doesn't necessarily follow the rules that we have today, they don't quite understand why they can't do what they want to do with things. And so that's where the planning and zoning can help get what they want. And
yeah, those boards are really important. I mean, having those planning zoning boards. I know they've just recently combined it. And so those boards are really, really important to have for McPherson. I don't think people realize that people volunteer their time to sit on that board.
yeah, it's all volunteer board, and they put a fair amount of time into that.
Yeah. So what are your top priorities during this first year in office? I mean, what are you planning on doing? You have something, the streets maybe?
So, I mean, the number one priority that I've had since I've got here is learning. I mean, obviously I didn't come from a public sector. I came from the private side, and so there's a fair amount of differences between public and private entities. And so learning that, just learning how the city operates and the intricacies of how all the things fit together and what all's involved with all those processes. So I've been drinking from a fire hose for several months.
Yeah.
I almost feel like I'll say this and then it'll crank back on, but I feel like it's getting turned down slightly.
Okay.
Either that or my mouth's gotten bigger and I've been able to.
You got more come in there.
Right.
When he said I've been drinking and then he stopped for a minute, I was like, oh. I was like, okay. And then you finished, thank goodness.
Yeah,
Because
thank
people are going to
goodness.
wonder what we're
Sure.
talking about out here.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously I'll keep learning a lot as I go. But the next priority really is filling up the bus. We're getting the right people on the bus. The bus had several vacant seats when I got here. There was some turmoil and some not so healthy things happening, especially in my department when I came on. And so we had a vacant seat at the planning and zoning administrator. We had a vacant seat for code enforcement, and at the same time, my position was vacant. So there's quite a few significant holes in public works due to that turmoil. And so really the main focus since I've started, second to learning is filling those roles. And we've got the planning and zoning role filled. We've got the code enforcement role filled. And the two people we've got there are excellent. I've been super pleased with both of them. They've been great additions to the team. So we've got some more seats to fill at streets and wastewater. We've got, we're looking for some good people to take us into the next generation or the next phase of those departments too. And so there's some pretty heavy focus on finding the right people there as well. But once we get the right people on the bus, then the other thing we're really focused on this year is evaluating our processes and our systems that we've got in place and making sure that we have good systems and have good processes so that we can really work effectively and efficiently. And so that's where a lot of our focus is at this year.
And I think a lot of that affects our housing, our ability to build more housing. When your process is smooth and people know exactly what they're supposed to do and they can walk in and get it taken care of. I know in the past, which way before you got here, I have friends that are developers, and they've always said it's more difficult to develop in our community. They've always told me that for years. They won't come here. And so I love hearing that you're going to try to smooth that out a little bit. So maybe it's not like this foreign language that nobody understands, that we can get it through smoothly and make it easy so developers who want to come in here feel comfortable. Hey, I know I can make this process work. And the people there are courteous and nice and respectful.
Yes.
I mean, that's really important that you're treated respectfully and not feel like you're bothering somebody by asking them to do something.
Absolutely.
So
and
I'm excited about that.
Yeah, and that's something that immediately has changed since I've gotten there, is just how we're interacting with people, how we're treating people, how we respect everyone we're working with and the people that are coming through the door. And really, I mean, what has surprised me too, or not surprised me necessarily, but one of the things I've really noticed since I've got there is there's a really, public works, but across the city, the people that we have working there really do care about what they're doing and are really doing it to make the community better. And so, that's one of the challenges we faced. Public works especially. I mean, I think all departments, but public works seems to be a punching bag at times for different things because our streets aren't perfect and things go wrong. And so... Yeah,
they're covering all the important stuff. Our wastewater, our streets that we drive on, all that basic stuff. So that's all people see.
Well, and I will say, when you have holes that there's a vacancy, somebody can step in for a little bit and work on helping there. But that can't go on for very long. And then if you have multiple people that are missing in whatever that job is, that gets harder and harder. So I'm super happy that you have started filling some of those holes and you have a plan moving forward. So what are the biggest infrastructure challenges that cities like McPherson are facing right now?
I think overall, I mean, I know specifically McPherson streets has been a big focus. It's been a big focus for the last several years, too. I was trying to look back and couldn't find exactly how long. But, I mean, we had a big community survey about which streets would need to be improved, and we focused on all four quadrants. And we're down to we have one more street to go that were identified from that survey or whatever. And we still have several years of, half-cent sales tax that are dedicated solely to streets. And so that'll be a big focus still over the next several years. Is really in continuing to improve our streets, continuing to improve that system. We're currently trying to get some subcontractors to look at a street evaluation so that we can refine and update our 5-year, 10-year plans on streets and really try to get ahead of the curve. Or streets are scored, and so we're trying to improve those scores and overall get to more of a preventative maintenance versus street reconstructions. But there was a time in our past where streets weren't a priority and were neglected, and so now we're trying to still recover from that. And so when you don't have preventative maintenance as a normal activity, then there's things that get behind the curve and it's hard to catch up. So we're still in that catch up phase, but we've been making progress. And so streets obviously is a big one, and then wastewater, they're going through a master plan right now.
Okay.
So we're finalizing master plan, and that master plan is specifically regarding the treatment plant itself. We've done an evaluation of all the piping and the systems outside of the plant in the past, and so we have that data already, and we'll finish up that master plan, and then really that'll set us up for the next 20, 30 years of what the plant needs to do and look like, and how we need to go forward there so that we can keep up with the expansions or growth of the city, and how to stay on top of it. The plant itself has been maintained and taken care of and kept up to speed. We've put some significant improvements in it over the last several years as well. And so it's an excellent plant, but there's pieces of it that are getting old and end of life, and so we're ready to start looking at the next chapter there as well.
So you're doing street improvements. Your wastewater's getting taken care of. They're putting sidewalks up by my house, which is pretty cool. We have the new substation for the fire department. I mean, for the police department, which may or may not affect you, but I would think infrastructure. But is there any other big projects that we're looking at as a city that people might be interested in knowing about? Something else besides that? I mean, that's already a lot, quite honestly.
Sure. No, there is a lot, and I mean, we have so we've started our budget conversations for the next year, and one of the big topics as always is our CIP projects. So each department, parks and police and fire and public works, and then we all have CIP projects, capital improvement projects that are, what do we want to do in the next 5 years? What are just horizon dreams? What are big dreams we want to try to get done, or needs that we have identified? So there's a long list of things there that are on the radar. I'm pretty sure that gets shared with the budget and the public information, and so I mean the list is way too long to note here.
I just wondered if there was something really big that was coming
Sure.
up.
I think as far as public works goes, here in the next couple years, 27, 28, there's a big reconstruction on Kansas Avenue. So the west end of Kansas Avenue is going to be reconstructed. So it's a whole new, tear out the entire street and replace it. And that's in cooperation with KDOT. So there's been about $4.5 million of funding granted for that project, along with the city's share of that project. So that'll be a major project that we're going through. And then we've got some street projects coming up this year is on Hickory Street, the 300 and 400 block of Hickory, and then some blocks on Hayes that are off of that too. So that's working through design now. That'll probably start later in the year as well. So that'll be a good sized street project that's happening. We'll have some other smaller street projects and street repairs that are happening throughout too, that are just some normal maintenance items. But
so I live on one of those streets that got reconstructed.
You did,
yes, and I just want to remind our listeners. So here's the deal, folks. You can either complain about the streets because they're not being fixed, they're terrible to drive down, or you can complain because the city's updating them and making them wonderful. And we like to complain.
We do like to complain.
I just want to remind you, if you're in one of those areas where they're reconstructing the streets, they're going to be better when it's all said and done. And they're listening to what we said. I know that Hickory and Hayes streets, those were ones that got identified in that road survey.
Yep.
And so that just makes me feel so good, because it's like our city listened to us.
They did listen. Yeah. So I have a question. I don't know if I'm taking us in a different direction. I'm always about housing, of course.
I know.
So when we're looking at all these projects and all the plans for the future, if the city's going to grow, that obviously has something to do with public works. You're going to be in charge of making sure that growth happens. Is there a specific plan that's been put together? What does that look like? How are you going to make it so the city can grow in a healthy way and have all that ready to go?
Yeah, so that ties directly to planning and zoning. So planning and zoning is responsible for a comprehensive plan that really looks out over the next number of years, whatever you'd identify. Usually it's 10 to 15 to 20 years out. And so we've come to the end of our last comprehensive plan that actually targeted the time frame to up to 2023. And so we were still operating under that same comprehensive plan, but it's time for a new one. And so this year we won't quite get to that. We're still focused on the processes and the different things that we're trying to get in place, but that'll be a focus of us for next year. I know also the new mayor's Loving's, one of his main focuses is really, there's all these great partners and companies and not-for-profits and everything in McPherson that are doing great things. McPherson Housing Coalition is focused on this. The Community Foundation is focused on this. The name, even private industries and different things, they're all focused on some great things. but it seems like a lot of them are going in, their own directions or different directions. And so just really trying to get all those people coming together and get a comprehensive idea of what everybody's trying to do. And let's try to go the same direction, or at least get some consistent target that we're all striving for as a community. And so the mayor's meeting with a lot of those individuals and a lot of those companies and organizations to try to get a feel for where they're at, where they're going, what we're doing. And so really that he's going to put a lot of focus, and we are going to put a lot of focus on trying to gather that information this year, so that when we go to do a comprehensive plan next year too, we've got all that information. We know where people want to be and what the needs are. And there's been a ton of work on, different community surveys and community studies and different things to show us what's what. So taking all of that information and really dialing it in on that comprehensive plan.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, we're trying to do that as a county as well, which is like herding cats, quite honestly. You've got
was
everybody
just thinking the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, and that's how it is with all of us. We all tend to be, especially me, I'm extremely independent. You know what I mean? And so it's like, okay, I've got to go learn how to figure out how to partner here, there, and everything else, because it doesn't make sense to duplicate what everybody's doing. We need to all be going the same direction. I 100% agree. And we could all be a little territorial and maybe not working as well together as we should be. I mean, we're all about housing. That's the bottom line. McPherson Housing Coalition, from homelessness to home ownership and everything in between. That's what we do.
Yeah.
So we're not interested in some of the things the other people are doing, but maybe we can collaborate in some way so that it makes it a stronger plan.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as we're doing it countywide, it's been a real challenge to try to get everybody really going the same direction, because it is bigger than the city, in my personal opinion. It really is. This is a county issue.
Oh, absolutely. And the county's a big player in that, in one of those groups that that we're trying to be engaged
we have
with.
to be able to do it as a county, because we have a lot more power. We have power at the state level and at the federal level, and so it's really important that we collaborate together as a whole county even.
And we're looking for ways to do that too, as Public Works and as a city. I mean, yes, we're focused on the city of McPherson, but there's other cities in the county that we can partner with in different ways and help each other and become stronger together. And so, I mean, one way that we've been exploring here is Canton was asked to, they came and asked us if we could help them with street sweeping. Their street sweeper broke, and they needed some street sweeping done, and so they said, well, instead of buying a new $200,000 street sweeper or whatever they cost, maybe McPherson could help us out, a couple times a year. And so I hadn't told them yet. So
I actually love that.
But and so I mean, I think
that.
That's something that we were definitely interested in. And so how can we help others? How can we all become stronger together? And
I love that. And the other part that we've been talking about is we develop in all the cities. So how do we develop in such a way that it's not difficult, where McPherson wants to do it this way and Inman and Canton Gal want to do it that way? How do we figure out a way to make it more consistent, so if a developer comes into McPherson County, they can come to McPherson, they can come to Inman or Lindsborg and all that. And how do we work together on that? So we want to simplify the process. I mean, you want it to be right. I don't want people building stuff that's junk. Or incorrect, but we need to simplify the process.
Yeah.
So this is so good. I'm loving this interview.
I know, I am too. So, Eric, how does the community play a role in helping Public Works do their job better to serve the people that are in our community?
Yeah, I love that question, and some people might not like my answer very well, but
brace yourself.
It's good though. I mean, really, everybody. We're all, Public Works in the city is here for the citizens, but the citizens also have ownership in the city. There has to be ownership at every level. And so, ownership meaning, being good neighbors, cleaning up your yards.
Yeah.
Not flushing
things down the toilet.
Grease down the sink or hygiene products down the toilet. Yes, there's certain things that that help.
Stop doing that, Carolyn. I know you were.
That help the city do their job better.
I just have to laugh because I was just in Oklahoma City with my girlfriends. Now, in McPherson, I typically see in the bathrooms, do not flush hygiene products. Don't flush.
My brother flushed a banana down a toilet once.
Don't do that. But I got to Oklahoma, all of a sudden the signs have added, do not flush diapers. I'm going, what? What?
Who does that?
I mean, I guess if you don't know, you don't know. So they had to put a sign.
I'm pretty sure we all know.
Yeah. Oh, that's too much. My mind is not even.
Okay, wait. Okay, so let's go back, Eric.
Yeah.
Sorry.
What kind of help should the community play in helping the public works do the best job they can for the citizens?
Yeah. So, I mean, yard work, stormwater is a big concern, especially after last year. I mean, everybody was affected by stormwater
Yeah.
and flooding. And so, I mean, obviously that was an extreme case, but on a normal conditions, like even just blowing your grass into your yard instead of into the street and into the gutters, because that grass and cleaning your leaves up, making sure they're not in the street, in the gutters. And so all those leaves, all those grass, they go down in the storm sewer and they plug it up, they restrict the flow of the storm sewers. And so you take that times, the whole city and all the residents in the city and all the piping, and that becomes an overall problem. Like that on the grand scheme of things, it impacts the system negatively so that it doesn't perform the way it's supposed to. And so just the little things like that you may or may not think about, of just doing your best to be a good neighbor. I mean, code enforcement is a pretty thankless job.
I can't even imagine how that works.
It's go around, talk to people that, aren't cutting their grass or have abandoned vehicles in their front driveway or, a variety of different things that typically neighbors like to complain about to the city instead of talking to each other. So one thing they can do is talk to each other.
Yeah.
Talk to your neighbor, like build a relationship.
Yep.
And just say, hey, I notice your grass isn't cut this year. And it's August.
Does your mower work?
Do you need any help? He's like, oh yeah, I ran out of gas. Well, here's some gas. Or it could be a simple.
Yeah.
It could be a simple problem or a simple solution, or it might just be. I remember when I moved into the house on Euclid Street when we first moved into town. It wasn't. I bet it was in the first week or something that we moved in, and I got a letter from the city that said it was an educational letter, but it was like, your trees above sidewalks need to be 9 foot, and your trees above streets need to be 14 foot. And I hope I have those numbers right. Might have messed them up, but anyways.
Anyway,
I was like, oh, I had no idea. No, I really didn't know that. And so I trimmed the trees, like a normal person would do, and moved on down the road. But I was like, I wonder. I'm pretty sure the city did, because our yard, it wasn't bad. It wasn't like they were ducking under tree limbs to walk down the sidewalk or scraping their lowriders as they were driving under it. I mean, it was no different than any other street on the house. And so you're like, oh, I wonder what neighbor complained about that, instead of just asking me, hey, and then I ran into one of my neighbors down the street one day and was just talking with me. He's like, oh, I'm so glad you trimmed your trees up. I drive my motorhome down your street all the time, and I'm dragging my trees. I was like, oh, so it was you. Yeah.
It was you, buddy.
Mystery solved. So yeah, I mean, be good neighbors, be good stewards of your space, and.
So I'm curious, since you brought all that up, did you know a lot of those things before you went to Public Works, or now you have a much bigger appreciation for? I will admit that on a few occasions my leaves may have accidentally gone into the street.
Yes. There's going to be times it's leaves. They come from
blow
everywhere,
around,
and they're always there.
And they're always the neighbors, because I don't have that many trees on my yard, so I know they're not mine anyways. But
I think doing your best is all that we ask. But so did I know all those things? I knew some of those things. The tree thing I didn't know until I got a letter, so that was helpful information. But I think the one thing that I think a lot of people may not think about, maybe they do, but it is what you know, and you don't know what you don't know. But like pouring grease down the drains, like it's not great. Like it coats the drains. My wife is constantly doing it, and I tell her I'm going to.
Oh, that's fun.
Turn her into waste-water into
you just,
code enforcement.
You just told her right here
yeah,
on our show.
Don't let her. I won't tell her I'm here today. But,
so here's the thing.
It's a big problem.
That grease is not going to dissolve.
No, it doesn't
in
dissolve.
Water.
Even if you put Dawn down it?
Where do you think it's going?
The logic that some people use is that, no, I just turn the hot water on.
Right, exactly.
And it'll rinse it, it'll clean it out. Well, it's like, well, the water doesn't stay hot all the way to the treatment plant. It gets cold pretty quickly after it mixes with all the other water that's going down there.
This is great.
And so, I mean, that's a... So we've also done some things at the city. We've adopted a grease ordinance in the last several years that I don't remember the years, but 5-10 years where now commercial businesses that are restaurants mainly that are doing kitchen operations that produce grease, they have to have grease interceptors or big grease traps to help collect that before it gets into the sewer systems. And so there's some education there that that has been challenging, to say the least, to get to people, because it's an expense. You know, they're not cheap to add them, and it's but in the long run, it's more efficient, more effective cost for the whole city, so that grease doesn't end up in the pipes, and we don't have to keep cleaning the pipes out year after year after year, like we do up at the east end of town, where all that restaurant row is along East Kansas, that was been there forever before the grease ordinance got established. And so all that grease is going to those lanes, and we have to clean them out every year with chemicals and different things that are environmentally friendly and all that. But there's extra effort that goes in regularly to clean them up.
I don't think people understand, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, we've had a couple things that we're like, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, we always comply eventually, but we have to grumble about it for a minute and say, this is dumb. What are you doing this for, or whatever. And, and then we say, okay, fine. There must be a reason for it.
And another area that I think of is sidewalks.
Yes.
So if I want to walk around my block and there's tree roots that are pushing those panels up, that's a trip hazard. And if I'm in a wheelchair or I'm challenged in moving, that makes it even more difficult. So we got one of those friendly letters from the city ourselves one time about our sidewalk out that runs the length of the block. And after some major grumbling, we replaced it. Well, we just had a brand new basement put in, and they broke up our sidewalk coming from the city sidewalk up to our house. And my husband's like, we have to get that replaced. That's a trip hazard. So one of us has learned the lesson.
One of you.
Nice.
Yes. Yeah, that's really
I'm glad
good.
you mentioned sidewalks, because I wanted to say that. I missed that note there, but the city does have a sidewalk reimbursement program.
Ooh, good to know.
Yes. So if for residences, it's not for commercial businesses, but for residences, the city will basically come out. We'll evaluate the sidewalk to make sure it meets the requirements. Basically, we want your sidewalks to be ADA compliant. So all those cracks, it doesn't take much to become out of compliance.
Does not.
And so all those cracks, all those broken up panels, different things, take you out of compliance. And so the city will actually pay for the materials of the concrete to replace that sidewalk, and the homeowner would pay the labor portion of that. And so if you're handy enough to pour your own sidewalks, you basically can do it for free.
Okay, wow.
That's awesome.
Good to know.
So what excites you the most about? What are you looking at doing the next year? Do you have big plans? I know we've kind of talked about it a little bit. You're really working on learning and trying to get the roads and that. Is there anything else that you really want to look for, maybe somewhere down the road?
Yeah, are you just saying the next year or just in general?
Maybe just in general. What are you hoping for?
Well, you're going to be there for
that's
years.
the idea.
The rest of your life,
the idea,
right? So what's your plan?
Yeah, the idea was to be there for quite some time. And so, really, ultimately what really excites me is that, the impact that Public Works has on our community. I have to also remain patient in that, because changes take time and things, we're learning, we're evaluating our processes, we're getting people on the bus. And so filling that up, training our people, getting some leadership succession, and just training our people well so that they can become the best versions of themselves at work is really what excites me. There's a lot of potential there to grow as an organization, I think. And then our city itself has tons of potential here. There's so much potential in McPherson for growth and change over the next 20, 30 years.
It's amazing, really.
Yeah.
It is incredible what could happen here.
Yeah, and so that's what excites me, and that's ultimately why I decided to say yes to the job. Is like, okay, this is something where there's a need here, and I could really make a difference. And it's not me making the difference, but I can come along with all the people that are here, and all the people that are working with us, and all the organizations that are partnering with us, and we can really do something cool here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Okay, well, I have to tell you.
Yes.
This has been one of the most fun
I know, right?
conversations that we've had. I absolutely love these weekly conversations. Hey, if you would be interested, or you know somebody that would be interested in being on our podcast, Housing for Good, go to housingforgood@mcphersonhc.org. Leave us a review. We haven't had any questions for a couple weeks, so leave us a question.
We need a question from somebody, our family members, somebody across the world. We've had some from Australia. We've had them from all over the place. So Yeah, send us a question. And know that we're all over the place. We're on Facebook. We're on all of those social medias. And we also have our own podcast YouTube channel.
Yep.
McPherson Housing Coalition. That's our channel. So please listen. That's what we want you to do. Listen, learn, have a good time with us.
Yeah.
And see what's going on with housing.
So, Eric, thank you so much for joining us
thank
today.
you.
This has been
Yeah.
so much fun.
Yeah.
Have a great day.